Welcome to Can You Believe It, brought to you by the Liberty Beacon Project. And I am one of your hosts, Roger Landry, and I'm joined every week by the very intelligent and oh so special individual, Barry Prince. How are you today, Barry?
Good, Roger. Sorry, I had my microphone muted there. I'm trained to do that now. Great, Roger. And always a pleasure to join you, and looking forward to hearing from our guest tonight.
Yes, and we do have a very special guest. And the gentleman we're going to be talking tonight is an engineer and the founder of AmericaAgain, which, unlike politics, will enable even 1% of we the people to end the 150-year hijacking of our Constitution. David is a regular contributor to political blogs and media sites, including the Liberty Beacon Project. Now, David, I'm just a little bit embarrassed here because I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce your last name. How are you this evening, my friend?
I'm well, Roger. You pronounce it Zuniga.
Okay. I would have butchered it, so I'm glad I let you say it. That's not what I was going to say.
Well, it's a Spanish name, and it is actually Zuniga, but nobody can say that, so it's Zuniga.
Okay. Well, our topic tonight is something that's very near and dear to my heart, and what I'd like to do is tell everybody that our topic tonight is, can Americans stop the cartels? And this is a three-part series, and we're going to do part one tonight. So, David, why don't you just broach this topic for us and give us a great introduction to both yourself, what you're involved in, what organizations you work with, and then we'll jump into the topic.
Okay. Well, Roger, I think what I'd like to do is say as little as possible about myself. It doesn't really matter. I'm an engineer and an entrepreneur. But I would like to, our organization is called AmericaAgain, and it's a perpetual charitable trust, and it's also a membership organization. It is neo-nascent, just being born. And so it has maybe 550 members or so. Very small. We've just started. What we're trying to do, we'll get into it a little bit more in this program, but what we're trying to do is essentially, well, let me make an analogy. You've got a smartphone, do you? Do you use a smartphone?
No, but that's okay.
No, okay.
Continue.
Most
I know what they are.
Most of your listeners have a smartphone. On my smartphone, it's an HTC One, and it's a little, it's like a little TV. I can do anything on it. I can do almost anything on this smartphone automatically from my car, wherever I am. Almost anything I want to do, I can do. The only thing I can't do, the only thing there is not an app for yet, is I can't control, I cannot see, I cannot control, I cannot understand what is going on with my servants in government. I have no control and no way to interface with them or to stop them from doing the things they're doing. So here we are in the 21st century, living 21st century lives in almost every way with technology, except we're living in the 19th century when it comes to political economy. It's crazy. So that's really the backdrop that I want people to start thinking about as they think of what we're going to talk about in these three programs, because we're going to talk about a problem that infests the whole world and has done for centuries. I mean, since the pharaohs. I mean, the cartels are just groups of people trying to control things behind the scenes, and they do it very effectively. They always have, and they probably always will in most places. The interesting thing about us as Americans is we've been blessed by God with a very unique law, with a very unique rule of law, Constitution. And because of that, and because of the Christian foundation, the ethical, the norms and nobility of Christianity that we have coursing under under the surface, we are uniquely able right now to change the world again, as we did once. Remember, they called us the New World. We are again able to become the New World And that's what we're going to be talking about in these 3 programs. How do you bust these guys? How do you stop them without even going after them? So that's what we're going to do. That's what I'd like to do.
I'm really looking forward to it. And I'd like to get into that topic a little bit, but I want to preface it with something. There are so many people out there who are ignorant of the facts. And I define stupidity and ignorance as 2 totally different things.
Agreed.
And stupidity is basically having the facts and choosing to do nothing with them. Ignorance is not having the facts available to you.
Agreed.
So let's get the ball rolling with this, and just let me get through this because I think you're going to see where I'm going with this. What we have in this country is a country that I agree is controlled by cartels, is controlled by mobs, gangs, cabals, however you wish to describe it. Some would say the elite, which is probably the granddaddy or the highest order of cabal that there is. What we have in this country, and most people would push back if you tell them this, is we have a corporatistic government. We have a government that is controlled and run by corporations. Now, if you want to take that to its root, and this is what a lot of people will push back on until I explain it, we're talking about fascism. Now, why do I say that? Well, let's go right back to the father of fascism, Benito Mussolini, in 1932, when asked by an individual in a crowd to better describe fascism. He said, fascism can better be described as corporatism, because what it is, in fact, is the blending of the power of large corporations and the state. So what we have are exactly what you say, Dave. We have these cabals today that control every aspect of this government. Lobbying alone is a multi-billion-dollar endeavor, with companies like Monsanto, one company, and there's thousands of them, spends between $10 and $12 million a year lobbying our leaders on Capitol Hill. So everything you're about to say works right into this. What I'd like you to do is get into part 1 of this by describing exactly what you see.
Good. I'll do that. Let me start by going even deeper than you just have. Lay some foundation alongside what you just have done, Roger. This is even more foundational, more important than the anomaly or than the crime, than the cartels. And that is the basic foundation of this constitutional republic. Because the cartels popped their head up with the first Treasury Secretary that we had, Alexander Hamilton. They popped up at the very beginning. So before Hamilton, we had this Constitution. And I'm going to give you an American civics course in 60 seconds here. It's 5 facts.
You're talking about the original federal banks.
Yes. But
okay.
Now I want to tell you what we have by law. Here it is. There's 5 points here. This is American civics that almost no one talks about, almost no one knows anymore. Point number 1 is our Constitution stipulates that it's the supreme law of the land. There's no higher law in this republic. Number 2, we the people are not grassroots. That's when I think of grassroots, I think of worms underfoot. We're the highest sovereigns. We are, get this now, we are over the Constitution, not subject to it.
Okay? We're sovereign.
Let me say that again, because the listeners have not heard this in school. They haven't heard this in undergraduate. They haven't heard this in grad school. They don't hear this anywhere. Well, now they hear it in alternative media everywhere. As sovereigns, we're the highest sovereign. There's a sub-sovereign, which is all of the states. They are sovereign as well. But we are the apex sovereigns, the highest sovereigns. We are over the Constitution. We are not subject to it. People need to get that in their head. Now, the sovereign states are below us. They are subject in many ways to the Constitution. And then under them, at the very bottom, is our federal servant. So once we get that, basic civic. Okay. That's point number 2. Point number 3 is sort of a corollary. If we're the only sovereigns that are over the supreme law, then we're the only we the people can enforce it, right? Nobody's going to be able to. Now we can hire people to enforce it, and we do in the states, our
Yes.
state, and we'll get into that. So we're the only ones that can start the enforcement process and can superintend the enforcement process as it goes on, because we're the only ones who are above that law, not subject to it. So then the fourth point is we're authorizing the servant, the ones at the very bottom, the federal government, we're authorizing them to perform 17 services. Those are they're harmonizing services between all the states because we didn't want the mess we had under the Articles of Confederation. So we enumerate in Article 1, Section 8 of the law, we lay out those 17 services. We enumerate them. And so by law, this is another one, you really need to internalize this, people. By law, Washington, D.C. has no other authority, no other sovereignty in our lives than those 17 things you read in Article 1, Section 8.
I got a question for you.
Yes.
Okay? Would you agree then that almost 80 to 90% of all of the laws and all of the executive EOs being put forth to us that fall outside of the Constitution are illegal?
I would almost agree with you. That's a perfect segue to my fifth point, the final point of American civics in 60 seconds. America's cartels captured the federal government about 150 years ago, really deep captured it during the Lincoln era. So and we've looked at it, and in the 2011 budget, we found about between 74 and 75% of total federal activity violates the Constitution, so it's illegal. It's criminal. It's criminal activity that we're all paying for, but it's not quite as much as 80 or 90. At least we found, if you break the budget down, you find about almost 75% of it is.
Are you including presidential executive orders in there?
No, I'm not, because those are you could do a whole show on those, but executive orders are extra. They are not judicial. They are only for the executive. They only apply. They only apply to the executive.
That's true.
They only apply to people who work in the executive branch. They don't apply to any other American. It's a very misunderstood area. People think that an EO applies to everyone, and it doesn't. But again, it's enough to say that close to 75% of everything federal government is now doing is criminal. It's illegal. So if you think that the cartels don't own this country and run this country right now, you just pick up the Constitution and look at the things we've just said. These are all facts. These are just plain facts, the 5 that I've just mentioned. So that's the foundation that I wanted to undergird this series of shows, on Can You Believe It? Because most people, it's a great moniker for your show, Can You Believe It? Because this is stuff that most people can't believe. Wait a minute.
I know.
The Constitution doesn't apply to me. Well, no, it doesn't apply to you. You're over it. You're the sovereign over it. So
this is true.
So that's what I wanted to do first, and now we'll get into the cartels. Now, so here we have the law. This is the system we have. It's there. It's been there for 225 years. We've never enforced it, but it's there. It's the law. It's the highest law. So here we are. 312 million of us, 220 million of us are voting age men and women. And so we're this huge, huge army. I mean, we could do anything we want. We just have to really want it and know what we're doing. But we don't. So that's my job. That's what you're doing. I think that's what you've been doing for 2 years. I think that's what all of us here on this show tonight are doing, is making it our job to see that people know what they can do, what the power that they have. That's what America, again, is all about.
Dispelling the ignorance. And again, it's not that there are so many stupid Americans. There are not. What we have is, and what we classify, and I don't like the word, but it's very descriptive, what we classify as sheeple are ignorant of the facts, and they are intentionally kept that way.
Well, I might slightly disagree with you again. I think there are a lot of stupid people. They really are. No, I mean, just really, honestly, a stupid person is one who, when you tell them something that's true and important, they say, okay, and they walk away and they don't care. Now that, to me, is stupidity. That's not ignorance because they've been informed and they don't care. Now, if the person doesn't care, they might care for a range of reasons, but if they don't care, then I would call them stupid. Unless, of course, they might say, if somebody's very wealthy, very self-absorbed and wealthy, they say, look, it doesn't affect me. I don't care. I don't do any of that. I'm above all that. So there's a lot of kinds of stupidity, but I still say there are a lot of stupid people. It's just, I think it's a little bit, it's too nice by half to say that nobody is stupid. We got a lot.
Maybe I'm just a little bit more optimistic than you are on some points, but I don't disagree with anything you're saying. But I would say, okay, in defense of when I say that,
in defense of stupidity,
right? In defense of stupidity. All right. Now there really is no defense for stupidity, but when you tell somebody something, you present the facts to them and they say okay and they walk away and they don't do anything. A lot of that has to do with the conditioning they've received over the years. Because what they're immediately doing after they hear what you have to say is identifying you as one of these conspiracy theorists or identifying you as a tinfoil hat wearer. Because they have been so conditioned over a lifetime. As I've told you, David, I woke up not even 3 years ago from exactly that type of a fog. So I'm not willing to give up on what you term to be the aware stupid, because they just haven't been presented with enough of the facts to absolutely force a change in their thinking. So I do believe that education is the answer. But I do understand your concept, and yes, we suffer that a lot in this country. Barry, what do you think? Do we suffer from a lot of stupidity?
Some days I wake up and I ask myself, why aren't Americans waking up en masse? Why is all this information out there and so blatantly obvious in front of our face, and yet so many Americans refuse to wake up and recognize what's going on around them? It's a question that I don't have an answer for. I believe people just don't want to be knocked out of their comfort zone. That as long as they can still go to the store and get food, and as long as there's gas in the gas station and there's a football game on TV, everything's fine.
Absolutely. And David, why don't you continue? Because this is exactly the type of conversation I was hoping for.
Well, now let's compare ourselves to, we'll use a close neighbor. Not close to you, but very close to me. I'm in Central Texas. I used to live in Laredo. I lived in Laredo, Texas most of my life on a ranch where I could get up on the windmill and look from the windmill platform and see over the Rio Grande River into Mexico. Okay, that's how close I lived to Mexico most of my life. And it's tough. It's very tough over there. It's been tough over there for a very long time. Now it's narco-terrorists, cartels that control Mexico. But for the longest time, I mean, as long as I've been alive, it's been corrupt government and businesses. In other words, there are cartels other than narco-terrorists in Mexico. And, talk to a Russian, you'll hear the same story. Talk to an Italian.
Oh, it's
you'll hear
rampant
the same
in Russia.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're going to hear the same thing. If you talk to an Italian, you're going to hear stories, that, and you think, okay, well, so where is it? Where do the cartels not control? I'm sure there are maybe some, a few Scandinavian countries and some places in the South Pacific.
Maybe.
but for the most part, and I don't mean to make light of our plight, but we have brought ourselves to this point. We can get ourselves out, and we're going to, again, this is 3 programs we're going to do. So we're going to work through the problem first so you really see it. And then we're going to start working through, I want to go through 10 proposed solutions.
Okay, we lost you for a few seconds there, David. So if you could go back over the last 5 or 10 seconds of your conversation.
Okay. I want to go through the problem first, and then the 10 most commonly proposed solutions over the last century to stop, to end the corruption, and then end up giving you my my spiel, which is America Again, and what we propose to do. So that's how I want to handle this. As far as how the cartels control Mexico, well, they do it with force. You see guns in the streets. I mean, somebody does something against the cartels, they're dead the next day. It's real simple, and nobody can stop it right now. And I can tell you, our family was extorted for $10 million. We didn't pay. We didn't do anything. We actually ended up leaving Laredo just less than a year after that. But we know what it's like. I mean, Mexico is horrible. But here we have a different kind of system. It's very much more benign looking. Well, now it's not very benign. Obamacare is really starting to open some eyes.
Oh, don't even start me on that. Oh,
I know.
that is
I don't want to touch Obamacare.
The perfect mechanism for the destruction of the middle class.
It really is. And it's frightening. It's frightening just how amazing. Well, anyway, we won't get into it this time. But so we have this highest law, the Constitution, and we have these businesses and these cartels. And I would say that the bankers are the first. They were the first. Started with with Alex Hamilton during the Washington administration. So it was the very first presidential administration under this new Constitution. And ever since then, the bankers have been hitting and hitting and hitting at the soul of America to try to find. I mean, they did very, very well for a while. The guy that really knocked them back or threw them for a loop for a good while was Jackson.
So and you would agree then, and most people don't understand this, and I've done a bit of research on this, that the Federal Reserve that serves in this country, serves is the wrong word. The Federal Reserve in this country is not the first attempt, but what, the third at a central bank in this country? The
third. There was a first Bank of the U.S., which was killed by James Madison. Right. And then the second Bank of the U.S. was killed by Andrew Jackson. That was the big bloody one that the bankers really, in 1837, in his farewell address, Jackson basically said, just watch out for these bankers. This is what's going to kill you. You've got to watch it. Just like in 1961 when Eisenhower said, watch out for the military-industrial, he made the term right there in his farewell address.
Military-industrial
complex. So that
which I worked for 30 years.
Yeah, you know it. And so these are the two big ones. But what I call the alpha wolf of the whole pack is the banking. And when people think Federal Reserve, they're thinking, this is an American thing. It's an American. No, it's not. You've got two Rothschild banks, London and Berlin. You've got two Warburg banks, Hamburg and Amsterdam. You've got Les Affaires with Lazard Brothers Bank in Paris, Israel Moses Seif Bank in Italy, and then the New York Chase Manhattan.
And
Lehman
they own the Federal Reserve.
They own the Federal Reserve. They own it. It's their stock. They own it. It's not federal. There's nothing federal about it.
Federal Reserve is run by an international cabal.
International cabal, yeah. Now, but I've got several articles, and I think you're running one of them on the Liberty Beacon soon, and this is about 51 years before. Everybody thinks, 1913. This is not where that cabal took over.
No.
And started printing this money. Lincoln was a failed railroad lawyer who happened to be very much like Obama, very malleable, very good in front of the cameras and the microphones, and so he was a great guy to use as their puppet, and so he under his and the 37th Congress. They were able to write this just like they did with Obamacare. They wrote this Legal Tender Act of 1862. During this war, this trumped-up war, the war was a perfect smokescreen. And so you have this war going on, and we don't realize that the war was all about the money. It was all about the money. And the other great thing, the other amazing thing to have realized, and I guess 20 years ago, when I finally realized what happened during that war, we were split in two, right? North versus South.
Yes.
And it was a blood feud that to this day, if you get a real son of the South, he will
Yep.
tell you how he hates the Yankee. You get a real deep, Yankee, red-blooded American Yankee, and he hates the son of the South. So you've still got this animus that's so deep. Well, that worked out beautifully, because if you can split the country in two and make sure that it's just about even halves, you can't let one get way bigger than the other. You've got to keep it a very evenly matched team, and then you've got it. Now you keep everybody fighting and looking at one another and fighting, and meanwhile behind their back, the bankers are, are going in and out of the house taking everything. So after the war, they just replaced the North-South thing with the donkey-elephant thing. I mean, it was brilliant. It was brilliant.
Yes.
The GOP was the replacement for the Whigs. The Whigs were the replacement before them for the Federalists. The Federalists were the replacement party for the what'd they call them? The King George. The Loyalists. Okay,
Loyalists,
so you had the Loyalists during the First War. Then you had the Federalists. Then you had the Whigs. And so here's the GOP that's born. Who's the first guy to run under the GOP? His name's John Fremont. He is an absolute blithering admirer of Karl Marx, and he doesn't win. He loses. But the second guy to run under the GOP ticket was Lincoln, and he's an admirer of Marx. Yes. And Marx is an admirer of Lincoln. And I've written about this for years. Marx, at Horace Greeley's New York Tribune, Marx
I already ran your article.
Yeah, I mean, that's right.
Yes.
The Liberty Beacon ran it. And when I tell people this, I still get these looks like, right. Marxism began 150 years ago in America. And it began right here. Karl Marx was a star journalist for Horace Greeley's New York Tribune. People don't know this. They think he was some German guy, but he wasn't teaching from over there. He was teaching through the New York Tribune. So people don't realize that by the time Woodrow Wilson was in office, 8 out of the 10 points in Marx's Communist Manifesto were already, Wilson made them federal policy. So we have been communist. The man who invented communism said, here are the 10 points that make you a communist. Well, we're communist ever since, certainly before Woodrow Wilson. So a century of communism. Here comes Obama, and I'm trying to show people, do you know what Obama is? Obama is the bloody, flailing, screaming end of American Marxism, not the beginning. We're seeing the end, and we're thinking, all is lost. No. You're about to see the best period in American history in 200 years. And I can show you how that's going to happen, and that's what we're going to do in these 3 shows. So
before you get into that, I want to harken back. You talked about when the banks stepped in
Yes.
1862, and
Yes.
I'm very aware of that, and you put it very eloquently. Where does the Act of 1871 fit in this? When the United States became a corporation, no longer a republic.
Yeah, I won't, because I am not well versed in that particular issue. I've seen it, I've started to research it, but I have not gotten deeply into it. I just stay with the money issue and follow it. Just follow the money. If you're a prosecutor, and that's what we are, America Again is looking. We have something, the core of America Again is the America Again indictment engine, which is essentially a series of algorithms and a bunch of prosecuting attorneys that are going to go after the members of Congress individually in their state criminal courts and start putting them away and taking their assets. That's what we're going to do. And we have the power and we have the law. Now we just have to do it. That's what America.
Now that's a big wow.
Yeah, it's big. It's real big. This is really exciting. This is why I'm so hepped. But because remember, we said the Constitution is the highest law. Now, let's take just one aspect of that law, and that is our money. If you can take the people's money, which they did in 1862, and 1871, I will tell you about 71. Now, that was a big year. Setting aside the incorporation thing, there were 2 cases in 71 that overturned an earlier case in 71. There were a total of 3 money cases. They call them together. They call them the legal tender cases.
Yes.
The first case in 71 was had ruled that during the war, that paper money, those greenbacks, really were illegal. They really were unconstitutional and had to stop. So here we were 9 years later. Okay, the war's over. Got to stop. Go back to gold and silver. That's the only legal money. Still is the only lawful money. And so the court rules, and right away, I mean, this was just amazing. Within 3 months, the bankers put 2 new members, 2 new justices on the Supreme Court. Well, Ulysses Grant did, but I mean, under the bankers' control. That's right. He puts two of the bankers' boys on there, and right away they come back and reverse themselves in 2 more cases. In other words, they had to double down so they could say, no, we were only kidding earlier this year. We can still counterfeit. And then in 1884, in the worst case of all, they come back again and triple down. And so the court again says, and that was called Juilliard v. Greenman. And that case, again, if you read these cases, you go, oh my God, it's so stupid. Well, it's just like what's his name? John, whatever his name is here. I hate to think of him. The SCOTUS Chief Justice did with Obamacare. They just basically make it up. They just make it up. So here we were under Reconstruction. The country is torn in two. People still hate one another, North and South. Nobody's thinking about money. And here's these 2 cases saying, no, we're going to keep printing paper. We're going to keep printing paper, and it's okay. It's all right. Look, the Supreme Court said it was okay. Now, notice we didn't take it to the states. We didn't do what Article 5 calls for. We didn't change the law. The law still says only gold and silver is lawful U.S. money. Article 1, Section 8, Article 1, Section 10 says the states will use nothing but gold and silver coin in tender as legal tender for payment of debts. That is still the law. That's always been the law. You can't just print up paper and call it money. That's illegal. But they're doing it. Now we can get them for it. And that's what AmericaAgain is about. If you can split them up, these are the cartel's puppets. If you can take those puppets and split them up, bring them home to their own state criminal court, take a harmonizing section of their criminal statute in their state, and nab them with it, like we did Ken DeLay here on 2 counts here in Texas. We made history here in 2010 doing that very thing. Here's a guy who's the second highest guy in the U.S. House of Representatives, and we get him on 2 state crimes. So it can be done. It's been done here. We can do this to every member of Congress. Every member of Congress. Now, what do we want? Why do we want to go after them? We want something, right? We want our lives back. We want our money back. We want our Constitution back. We want a much, much smaller government.
We want a government that is once again of by and for we the people. And the true governance was always intended to be with you and me. And everybody in Washington was intended to be our servants. Wouldn't you say the role has been reversed?
Yes, we've been their servants. Now, I'm not. I'm a non-taxpayer, but we'll do a separate program on that.
Yes.
I've been a law-abiding non-taxpayer. I have a really neat. It's my hobby is tax law. I love tax law, but a tax honesty primer. It's just taxhonestyprimer.com, and that's a hobby site I've had for years and years. Thousands of people have looked at it. But that's something. So I'm not their slave. I'm not. I don't pay for Obama's golf games or his wife's new $20,000 dresses or any of that stuff.
I don't either.
I just smile and I look at those things and I say, "Wow, these taxpayers are crazy." But let's get back to the cartels now. Who consist of what does the cartel, the entire cartel, consist? It's not only the bankers. Because if you start thinking about what the other, let's look at some of the major ones. Look at the so-called defense contractors, the armaments industry. It's huge, and it runs hand in glove with banking worldwide. So if you can't get something done politically, you have to do it militarily. You have to create a big row, lots of fires, lots of blowing up buildings, and then you start doing it politically. So there's the armaments industry. They're very, very corrupt. They're very, very shot through with cartel activity. There's petrochemicals and energy. That's the other one that is very, very closely allied with
Gee,
armaments.
who would have figured?
Yeah, I know. And for the last century,
Exactly.
that
Well,
triad, the arms
well,
industry, the petrochem, and the banking have been just an amazingly efficient machine to take over the
let me
world.
step in 1 second just to back up a point because I like to throw interesting facts in every once in a while. And you hit a key point there with the petrochemical industry or cabal. We tell so many people that one of the biggest reasons we need to be in the Middle East is we need to protect the supply of oil free flowing to the free world so that we can basically keep the economic engine running.
American interests.
What most people don't understand, and this comes as a shock every time I say it to a lot of people, is that the largest oil reserves on this planet by a factor of 5 times. In other words, if you took all of the oil on the planet and put it together, there is one country in the world that has 5 times and could be as much as 8 times the entire reserves of the rest of the world. Guess what country that is?
Gee, would it be the United States of America?
Yes, and it's right under the Southern Rockies, and there is an estimated 3 to 5 trillion barrels of oil. We don't need to go anywhere for oil, and this government has known that for 60 years.
Wow. I'd say we've been duped.
Oh, we're just touching the surface.
Yeah.
What about pharmaceuticals? What about healthcare? What about I mean each one of these is a whole show. What about healthcare, agriculture and processed foods? What about telecom? What about the so-called here's a big one. The so-called news media, when you look at how they how all of them tie together and eat off the same plate every day, it's and actually not just the news media, but the entertainment media even.
Well,
both of them work together.
I agree. When you consider that 96% of all of the media is owned by 4 large companies.
People. Yeah.
I mean, and they all lock arms together.
Yes. Now
yeah.
That's why I like the term cartels, because it describes what they're doing and how they operate. Now, we're going to probably have to speed up here, but let me give you some others. Look, when you're looking at news media and entertainment, the advertising world is tied closely together with entertainment and news, such that the stimuli that you see, and I'm not talking about the alternative media now. The internet is really changing the game for everybody, but a lot of people still watch a lot of TV, network TV, and so they're getting this all together. Then there's the two that feed that, which is K-12 and higher education. If you can dumb a kid down and give him all the wrong questions to ask for 12 or 13 years and then put him out there and show him TV and stuff, he's pretty much, he's your dupe. I mean, you can pretty much do anything you want with him. So there's professional sports. Think about that. If you keep people tied up enough and excited enough about their pro sports team all their life, they don't have time to think about the Constitution or self-government. They just don't. They're too busy watching their team.
Misdirection or redirection.
Yeah, it's like wars. It's what wars do. It's what presidential politics do. You're watching. If go back to our analog here, we are the king in America. We are the highest sovereign. So we're like the king. Here we are sitting above this government. And you know how kings used to have a court jester. You know, when the king's bummed out, they'd bring in this clown and he starts doing stuff until the king finally gets happy. Well, that's really what political party machines do. They create these presidential mannequins, and then the president gets up there and he's supposed to be executing what the laws that the Congress pass and all of that. But now when you look at it, it's all a show. I mean, it's a daily show. What did he do this time? And here's how you can see this happening. When you look at how Europeans look at their monarchs and their prime ministers, and we laugh at that. But then we come and say, look, this is exactly the way we carry on with our presidents and their wives and their other stuff they have going on. I mean, it's Silly. It's silly. It's a show. Then you have, here's another one of the cartels is the federal tax industry. And I talked about being a non-taxpayer.
Oh,
The federal tax industry is much, much bigger than people think it is. You have a lot of university programs. You have a lot of publishers, tax publishers for CPA stuff and all. When you start looking at the entire industry, it's really, really big. It's not just tax collectors that work for the Internal Revenue Service. It's a very large industry, and that tax industry wants to keep you in that system. It's their life. It's their livelihood. You have my area of work, commercial construction, institutional construction, bridge and highway construction, the home building industry. All of that is very cartelized. And then you have tort lawyers. They work for all of these others and for anybody who wants to go dip into somebody's pocket for a few $1 million because they tripped and fell. You've got the computer hardware and software industry. You have the internet providers and the search engines. So those are kind of the big, big players. And look how many of them there are. And they all have their team in Washington, D.C. and keep them all basically playing for their team. So it's very hard.
Would you be talking about the lobbyists who basically influence each and every law in this country?
Well, they write them. What do you mean influence them? They write them.
That was my next point. See, this is why I like you, David. You just took the words right out of my mouth. I was about to say, who do you think wrote the Monsanto Protection Act?
Oh, they write all of them,
That was Monsanto.
Roger, they write all of the laws.
Yes,
they have done
do.
For almost a century. And when people say, well, who writes the laws in the country? You know, Congress does. No, Congress votes for them. They vote for them. Again, it's just a matter. Now, there's an answer to all of this. We're going to show you, I'm going to show you really exciting stuff by the third program. But we have to look at this problem so we understand, number one, how pervasive, how deep it is, and how old it is. It didn't just start with Obama at all, or with Bush or whatever. This goes back to Lincoln. It's where that was the real watershed, was Lincoln. During that war, the purpose of that war was to do what I talked about earlier. Split the country, bifurcate it in perfect halves, and then every couple of years you let one half win, and then you let the other team win, and you just keep them fighting. And while they're doing that, we're picking their pockets. You know, it's a really brilliant.
Oh, and it's the mechanisms they use. There is no such thing as a naturally occurring depression or a naturally occurring recession.
Exactly.
It's like a billows. As you move a billows in and out, what does it do? It either blows off debt or it sucks in money. Okay, but that's exactly what it is.
Yes.
And you will find, if you do any research on the Great Depression, that as America got ultra poor, the ultra rich got even more ultra rich.
Yeah, even richer. Yeah.
It was choreographed.
Yes.
So yes, again, you hit the nail right on the head, my friend.
Well, there are so many ways that we can go with this. But as far as the first article in the series, to lay out what the problem is, to see what the cartels are, and to see how they work. Probably the last thing I'd like to say about how cartelized industry now, how America under, like you called it, very accurately called it, Roger, fascism. Functional fascism is just the alliance of a powerful central government with the corporations. That's what Mussolini's ghostwriter said it was. And that's what it is. And as we've just talked about in this show, this has been going on for a century, more than a century. So, and like I showed you, it actually has been going on since Alexander Hamilton was placed in the position of our first Treasury Secretary under this Constitution. So it really goes right to the beginning, and so it's very interesting. It's an old problem, not a new one. The world isn't falling apart. It's not ending tomorrow. I don't believe the Lord is coming back today, and this is why all this is happening. I think people have done over the centuries, whenever there's a hard time, you know, a lot of the Christians say, oh, Lord, you know, this has to be Armageddon. Well, look, it may be. I don't know. But I do know that Christ said, When people come and start telling you, "Hey, look over here or there, here he is," or don't listen to them. Nobody knows
Right.
but the Father. So I say, I just no, I don't believe it. I think that this is the time of the best opportunity for Christians in America in 200 years.
I would tend to agree that it's not just the best opportunity for Christians. What we're witnessing is
Well,
a
I said Christians and America. I'm sorry. I
Oh,
should,
yes.
if that sounded
No,
like
I agree.
Christians in America, Christians and for America, because Christianity is growing right now at a faster rate than it ever has, and America has a bigger opening right now to stop this criminal activity than we've ever had before because of the internet and the tactical force massing capacity of that technology.
And what we are seeing, and through no small assistance of um, groups like the Liberty Beacon Project, groups like America Again, organizations that are educating, there are a massive amount of people awakening. And it's not just in this country, because as you've heard me say, David, the United States does not have a patent on either liberty or tyranny. There is a global awakening going on. But Barry, I've got a question for you. Do you think the governments are corrupt?
No, Roger, come on, man. The government would never lie to us. They have our best
Oh,
interests. Man, I've been watching TV all my life, and I honestly, come on, the government has our best interests in life. They wouldn't do anything to hurt us, and they're there to take care of our best interests, and that's what what governments are supposed to do, right?
I
No,
need a
actually,
new
I
second
mean,
host for this show.
listen, Roger. We
Yes.
know how deep the corruption is. The problem with most people is it's really hard to wrap your head around how deep the corruption is. I've learned a lot here tonight listening to you, David. Being a Canadian, this is a real education for me on American history. I'm aware of a lot of things you said, but I had no idea that this went this far back and this deep. So I'm enjoying listening to you, Dave. And I can't really make too many comments on what you're saying because, like I said, I'm a Canadian. But
You
that's all
guys
I'm going to
got
say.
corruption too.
I know we got it just as
A
bad as you
lot of
guys.
it.
It's everywhere in the world right now, Roger. It's everywhere we
That's
go. It's just under
my
a different
point.
face and a different points are being made. We know what's going on this planet, and that it's going to take a universal effort of the people on this planet to stop it. And I really commend you for your work, David. I really look forward to hearing these next two shows and getting educated on the legal aspect that we can attack this government with.
Well, thank you. I'd like to cover one more area if we still have some time, Roger. How are we
We have
doing?
12 minutes, so you can
Okay.
actually eat up about 7 or 8 of them and educate this crowd a little bit more because, as I told everybody, this was going to be an interesting conversation.
Well, this is where we deal with the Tea Party and with the GOP faithful, which are two cohorts in which I have many, many friends and family members, Tea Party and GOP. Electoral politics is bread and circuses. It was not meant to be, but it is now, and it certainly has been for a century. And when you have the cartels in there, you say, well, don't we care about who gets elected? Don't we want the best people in there? What, are you not going to vote? That's exactly right. I don't vote. I do not vote. Now, the reason I don't vote is that, if it's really, really windy outside, I'm not going to go outside and piss directly into the wind. That's not a smart thing to do.
Or into a fan.
It's
Or into a
it's
fan.
it's not. It's going to come right back on me. I'm not going to get anywhere. We are. It doesn't matter if you had 100 new members of the House of Representatives that were all constitutionalists. You still couldn't break the back of the cartels that way. If you had 60 excellent people in Congress, or 50 or 60 of them who were the real Ted Cruz types, whatever you think of that man. And we won't get into it.
I would say Ron Paul, but you can say Ted Cruz.
Ron Paul's not there anymore.
No.
Ted Cruz is not Ron Paul, but
No.
he's just a much better orator that doesn't have Ron Paul's heart. But
Right.
but what you have, that is advertising. Electoral politics is I said before it was like the court jester. It's to make us happy. It's to make us sad. It's to give us our ups and downs and keep us busy and watching the TV and saying, look, we're doing something. We're doing something. It's theater. And that's all it is theater. Or as they say here in Texas, it's theater. It's just theater.
Yes.
And if we understand, well, but why wouldn't you vote? Well, here's what electoral politics is. It's not only theater, it's public relations and advertising for the cartels. It's how they do their advertising or PR. If they're trying to get a certain thing to come up on the radar so they can push this new bill they wrote into some particular senator's hand or congressman's hands, they first have to kind of drum up the atmosphere. So if you were in a company trying to do this, just a regular business, a straight business, an honest business, and trying to do something, influence the people that you want to come buy from you, you would go out and you'd hire an ad agency or you'd hire a marketing firm. Well, the Democrat and Republican machines are the ad agency and the marketing firm for all of the industries, the cartels that we've just listed, just talked about.
Agreed.
That's what they do. That's what they're, the PR and marketing. They get the people up in arms. They get the people. So you get even a Ted Cruz. You get somebody like that. He's very good. He's telegenic. He's great. He gets everybody mad, even if you think, oh, wow, it's making all the liberals mad. No, it's not. It's getting the game warmed up so the liberals can play their part next. This is a game. Nothing changes when the cartel owns all of the players, and they do. And if they don't own you the day you get there, you will be woodshedded. And if you want to sit on any committee, if you want to do anything in Congress ever in your life, you are going to play the game. So within a few months, however you came to Washington, within a few months, you are going to play that game.
Or you won't stay in Washington long. In 1933, okay, Franklin Delano Roosevelt was quoted as saying, presidents are not elected, they're selected.
Selected, yeah, exactly. That's
and
right.
That, my friends, was a politician actually telling the truth for a change.
And FDR didn't do it often, so that's really unusual.
Yes.
So that's the foundation for this series. We see who the enemy is. It is big, right? It's just, isn't it daunting to think about all those big companies and those fat cats and behind the scenes? But you know what's even more daunting and more amazing to me? If you think of just 1 million free people operating in a network, a neural network of just, cell phones and laptops and stuff from home, that is an amazing organism. And if you see the first day that AmericaAgain brings up a convicted felon in handcuffs, in leg shackles, from Congress into his, into the ignominious position of wearing an orange jumpsuit, that will be just like the shot fired on Concord Bridge. That will be just like the volleys fired in Lexington,
around the world.
On Lexington Green. That's right. The shot heard around the world. And the world right now is watching like never before. I mean, within minutes of this, seeing, you mean the Americans can actually do this to their elected officials? Of course we can. This is just a criminal. I mean, it doesn't matter if he's an elected official. And guess what? We can do this to all 535. You know what? We're not going to touch the presidents. We don't need those guys. We don't need to get them. They don't hold the purse strings. These guys do. Now we're going to split them up. We have thousands of criminal courts in the states, in the sovereign states of this republic. And when our chief counsel in the legal section of AmericaAgain starts teaching through the national DAs and prosecutors groups, starts teaching DAs and prosecutors throughout these states how to do this, this is going to be amazing. The law schools are going to freak out with this because you now have the Constitution standing on its own feet again for the first time in over 200 years. People will say, but wait, we don't do it that way. The people do. And guess who's in charge? Not you, law school. Not you, liberal professor. Not you. In other words, what you see happening right now with all of these people who are up in arms with their posters and their bullhorns and their T-shirts and their, what else do they use? Let's see, their bunting and, I mean, come on. You don't fight a war like that. We don't have to take one AR-15. We don't have to take one, Ruger Mini 30 or anything else. All we need is the law.
All we need is a critical mass.
Yes.
Enough
Yes.
voices
Yes.
together that we can no longer be ignored. And this is that's another motto of the Liberty Beacon Project. And that is that one voice may speak, but many unified voices can roar. And damn it, it's time for we the people to roar.
Amen.
Amen. Let's roar, guys.
And actually, I've got a couple of memes I've made up for that every time I post them, which is like once every other month, they go viral because people feel that in their heart. And they feel that something is changing.
Yes.
Yes, they do.
And
Roger,
it is
we feel energy.
Go ahead, Barry.
Well, we feel the energy coming over the internet now, guys, like I've never experienced before, and getting together of people like I've never seen before. And Roger, what the Liberty Beacon is doing right now, my friend, is exactly what we need. We need to gather people together in one voice that cannot be denied anymore. David, you've really brought some really interesting information to my mind tonight, and I'm really looking forward to hearing you talk on the next two shows. Guys, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Barry.
Any parting words there, David? And then I'll wrap the show up.
Well, God bless you, Roger. I'll tell you, I've looked at your stuff. I've looked at all of your media outlets. I've looked at the things that you do every day. And man, I don't know how you do it, but I'm sure glad you do. And I thank you very much for finding us and for inviting us on your show. And I'm just looking forward to doing this again and again with you. There's lots of things we need to cover, and it ends very, very well. It's very promising what we've got for you. So looking forward to the next show.
Well, I would tell you that we have so many people and so many guests that come on and they scream the doom and gloom. And I'm not saying that what they're saying is wrong or inaccurate.
Yeah, it's true.
If you continually offer up as knowledge the problems without any solutions, then you are not part of the solution. Okay?
Yes.
When I say educate, and which is exactly what our mission is, I'm talking about telling you what the issues are and telling you how we can overcome them. Now, the very kind words you said about the Liberty Beacon Project was exactly what I was going to say about you, David, because you are a mechanism of solution.
Exactly.
And yes, you do present the problems, and you present them very eloquently. But you end your conversation with, I'm very excited because there's good things coming our way, and it's all going to end well. You're one of a very, very small club that even talks that way. So you will be back, not only for the next two shows, because it's a 3-part series, but, and it probably won't be next week because we've got another guest for next week, and I want to spread this out a little bit. But over the next month, we will finish this series. You will be back many times, my friend, because you will not only explain what the problems are, but you will explain a very, very, easy to consider solution to those problems. We have within our power, in a republic, to change things as we see fit. All we need to do is gather the critical mass. We'll put the critical mass together, and it's partners of the Liberty Beacon Project like yourself, Dave, that will make us all aware of really good and decent solutions.
God willing, yes, and providing. Thank you. All
right. And I want to say thank you to everybody for listening to the show. As usual, well, actually, this is a relatively new show. And, yep, we just got a mad dog out there. But this is a relatively new show. And as the audience builds, what you're going to find out is the name of the show is very, very appropriate. It's Can You Believe It? Because a lot of the things we're going to present to you, you'll hear for the first time. And in a lot of cases, you're going to push back just a little bit because you're not aware of these things. We don't say, can you believe it? Because it's something you're well aware of. We're here to educate. We're here to teach. This has been Can You Believe It? Brought to you by the Liberty Beacon Project. And my very special thanks to my co-host, Barry Prince. And David, you're a delight, my friend.
Thank you, Roger.